just to make sure there are no misunderstandings, I'm Sopna, and this chap is our hate to hero, the mascot of the Hydrogen Europe Week. And please, a big round of applause for him. I think the reason why we looked for a mascot is to actually also personify to a certain extent our endeavor here, our journey. And I think hydrogen should be a lot of fun as well, even though sometimes it might feel a bit more challenging. So thank you. And if you leave me, then I'll just start to open the day today. So, a very warm welcome. I'm really honored to stand here for the opening of the 4th Hydrogen Europe Week. It's been really a tradition, and before I say anything else, I want to really express my deepest gratitude to the team, because this team has gone through a lot of pain, blood, and sweat, and of course also fun, in order to make this event happen. So please join me, first of all, in some round of appreciation here. So I think it's fair to say that this week has really become a landmark gathering. So whilst we started the first year, we weren't really sure how this would be received. But if I look around the room, it's pretty clear. We have them all. We have the political decision makers here in the room. We have very esteemed guests coming from Oman all the way, also from India. We have different players across the value chain. So basically, this is the hydrogen industry. This is the room that's really taking everything forward. And I think it also says it because hydrogen is still an endeavor that we can only make a success together. It's really about collaboration across markets, across the value chain, but also making sure that we in Europe are not only single-sighted, that we really understand what strategic foresight means. And this brings me also to the strategic relevance of hydrogen, sometimes forgotten in the day-to-day challenges of business operations. Because at the end of the day, it's really helping us to build up resilience. We're living now, unfortunately, in days, and someone pretty famous said recently, we are not at war, but we are not in peace yet either. We are kind of in between. And hydrogen really gives us the opportunity to, I would say, secure a certain level of autonomy in Europe, paying into security of supply, creating a certain degree of independence, but also making sure that we really help decarbonization of industry progress and help the energy system in an affordable way to transition. Talking about resilience, I think geopolitical challenges are fairly high. But at the same time, I truly believe that us standing together can make a difference. And I think if there's something everyone here in the room has proven is that if we do it, we can really create value. Unfortunately, though, I think it's also fair to say we are facing certain delays. And this is not because people or actors have not been entrepreneurial, have not been courageous, have not been putting their actions where the words are. This is really because the political boundary conditions, I'm talking about the regulatory framework, is unfortunately maybe not 100% yet pragmatic. That's a very nice way of saying this. It's actually really delaying the ramp up, the adoption of the hydrogen market. In saying this, I think we should be clear, we now are at a turning point, at crossroads. Crossroads where we can seize it, not only increasing the resilience of Europe, but at the same time making sure we find strong partners and friends with whom together we want to progress, and at the same time really relax regulation to make market adoption taking place. What happens if political environment and political decision makers are really forthcoming? Then we suddenly see commitment, we see regulation, we see frameworks coming through that really make a difference. And it also allows players, and allow me now in a small commercial insertion to talk about RWE, because yes, I'm standing here today as chair of Hydrogen Europe, but I do also have the privilege of driving the development activities for RWE, one of the largest electricity producers in Europe, specifically the largest one in the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands. And we have been driving not only the investment decision of 300 megawatts, we are constructing. So anyone who's got a chance to actually come to northern Germany, you can see a plant really taking shape of reality. And we did achieve, together with Total Energies, one of the largest offtake agreements, commercial offtake agreements for 30,000 tons per year starting 2030. So the point I just want to make is hydrogen is happening. And yes, it might be a bit delayed if you look at the market landscape, but there are actors and there are many others in Jorgo. You will also say there are many more examples to come through where we can really see if you have the courage, if you understand how to manage risk, but if you also take some kind of entrepreneurialism, you can make hydrogen become reality. Germany very recently has actually issued a so-called energy monitoring report. And just as a commitment from the political side, I think it's fair to say that they have not only been mentioning hydrogen, they have been clearly saying it's of equal importance to the electrons. It's about developing jointly an infrastructure for the molecule and the electrons together. And it's also very clearly stated in that report, hydrogen is no longer optional. It's a necessary foundation for making the energy transition happening. So, looking at Germany, and of course, it's good to have a strategy. Now, I'm very much looking forward to them really implementing. And I think we as an association are doing the best, not only in that member state, but across Europe, to making sure politicians keep to their words. So, summing it up, I think, even though it might sometimes feel a bit challenging, there is a huge opportunity. We just have to seize it. And we also have to continue being patient. Rome wasn't built on one day, but if I look backward, 4 years ago, I think there were hardly any projects that were close to any kind of FID, and we've made together a tremendous change and difference. So I'm very much looking forward to all of you. I do hope that you enjoy the week, and I'm extremely glad to also now have Jorgo and Ivana in the next moment. I would say enlighten us from a dialogue perspective, because Ivana, for those, I hardly think there is anyone who doesn't know you, Ivana, but as someone who's really leading the Global Hydrogen Council, I think it's a very good mirror, a great mirror for us to look into where does the rest of the globe stand and where are we as Europe. But first of all, I would say over to you, Jorgo, and have a fantastic hydrogen week.
Thank you. Thank you, Sopna. Thanks to all of you. I would, of course, like to welcome everybody of you personally, but this is very difficult as it's a lot of people that came to our 4th Hydrogen Week, but I would like to welcome Minister His Excellency Alaufi and also Secretary Sarangi from India and from Oman, of course, but you will later on take the stage and explain, and I will come back to it in a moment, why your countries are so important. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a lot of people here in that room, and the interesting thing is that compared to the first years we started to organize these conferences, I call it the tourists are gone. What does that mean? In the beginning, there were a lot of people interested in this new thing, hydrogen, possibly interested in a fast profit, but they are gone. You can see it at big hydrogen conferences all over the globe. And this is a good signal, because that is a signal for a real path, for realism. Because there were some ideas of politicians, of policymakers, we have this climate issue, we have this war in Ukraine, why don't we kill all the flies with one stone? Hydrogen, cool. And then the sky's the limit. So this is how they measured how much of hydrogen needs to be produced in 2030. And I think it's the wrong approach. The right approach is, first of all, to understand the vast possibilities of hydrogen, but second then, to sit down and to calculate and to come to a very, very concrete path. and that's why I'm so happy to have Oman here as a partner country. This is really a country that is known for resilience, for reliability, for safety, and it's economic. But we'll come back to that. Ladies and gentlemen, hydrogen, you could say, is happening. I say happens. And Sopna just mentioned the big Get H2 project. Here you see this wonderful German word, Zuwendungsbescheid, so you got this money. You got it from ministers and from policymakers, and you took a risk. You took a risk, although the regulatory environment is very, very difficult in Europe, not in the rest of the world, but everybody looks to Europe, and this is why I believe it's very important to start with a very clear message. Early adopters should be rewarded for the risk they take. This is not foreseen in our system so far. We need to change this. And we can see that you are building this up. You are building this up between Lingen, north of Germany, then it goes down. It's a Dutch-German project with a French off-taker. Yeah, there are some Dutch components also. But it's fantastic to see that this is the way clean energy looks like. And it's happening. It works. And in your case, you took the risk. In this case here, this is Maasvlakte in the Netherlands, investment by Shell. It took quite some time. Why? Because despite the fact that our Dutch friends invested, policymakers in the Netherlands, and I criticize this clearly, said, you are greening refining. You are creating a lock-in effect into combustion. No good. We will not help you. So they delayed, policymakers delayed a project that decarbonizes, so to say, business. No good. We need to tell politicians right into their face, why don't you see the whole thing? We need to bring down CO2 emissions. Is it helping? Then do it. And don't try to go there on ideological basis. And this is very, very important. Sopna mentioned the monitoring report by the new German government. And this monitoring report is a pathway towards realism. So what can we do? This is how Maasvlakte will look like in a while, and this is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot, as Europeans, do that alone. That is why we have partner countries. Last year, we had as a partner country India, and we have here on this picture already the world champion on tendering, Mr. Sharma. He is here, and you see that he is, because no other tender in the world was so successful as yours. 13 tenders in a row, and as he informed me the day after, so he rewarded the winner. And by the way, the winner is also, in 6 of 13 tenders, a member of Hydrogen Europe. That's ACME. That's ACME. That's yes, and I know the ministry is very, very important for that. But this is also a signal that it happens on a global scale. But we want to be good partners. And we are extremely happy to see that Oman is now developing into a first destination for hydrogen. I think on the globe, no country by royal decree has given so much earth to hydrogen like your king, your government has. And it's impressive to see what is happening in Oman. And Hydrom is the basically state-owned company doing all these projects. We are here to discuss with you the next 2 days, and Minister Alaoufi is our guest, and we are honored that you made it. Not for the first time. He visited already the port of Antwerp. He visited also a steel factory. Miguel Lopez is here from ThyssenKrupp Group, but steel is your part, and he visited that. I'm born in that town. That's why it makes me quite happy and quite proud. But ladies and gentlemen, we alluded already to the problems. Whereas the Indian tender on green ammonia brought down the price on par with fossil ammonia, which is a big achievement. We have a difficulty with our hydrogen bank. We were very proud 3-4 years ago when Ursula von der Leyen said, the hydrogen sector, I love it, will get 3 billion euro for the hydrogen bank. Everybody said, whoa, they have a hydrogen bank. In fact, it's not a bank. In fact, it's a mechanism, but it's not as successful as yours. But who are we to go now to Mrs. von der Leyen and say, listen, it's not working. No? This is why we need to be diplomatic and explain how things can work. We will come back to it during our conference and explain why you were successful and why we here in Europe have an issue. But who am I to tell you which issue we have in Europe? I would like now to invite Ivana Jemelkova, the CEO of the Hydrogen Council, which is basically the global club of CEOs in the hydrogen sector, to join me on stage. Welcome, Ivana.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jorgo. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jorgo, and thank you, Hydrogen Europe, for the opportunity to be here with you this morning. The EU Hydrogen Week, and we can see it with the filled room, has become quite the staple on the global hydrogen calendar. And it's really fantastic to see some of the key movers and shakers with us in the room. The Hydrogen Council, as you said, Jorgo, brings together companies from some 20 different countries around the world. And as CEO, I have the enormous privilege to go and visit my members. Just last night, I was with our member Aqua, just outside of Antwerp, as they were opening a new giga-scale membrane manufacturing facility. 10 days ago, I was with our members in Japan, looking at Swiss Frontier on a mission, passing by Osaka, the World Expo, with our members, Toyota visiting their fuel cell manufacturing facility, Asahi Kasei, Eneos, and I can tell you from when I see these things in real that hydrogen truly is happening. Yes, there are challenges, there's no way to sugarcoat it, but hydrogen is moving forward. Now, the good thing is you don't have to take my personal anecdotes as the evidence of that. We actually count, we look at the numbers, and this is what I would like to share with you all today. At the Hydrogen Council, we look at every single announced project around the world, and every year we take stock. We look at whether hydrogen is moving, not moving, what is working, what is not working. And with that, I would like to show you two numbers, and I really would like to help you take them away from the conference. The first one is really 110. The industry has now surpassed $110 billion in committed capital. That in itself is absolutely exciting, but look at the trajectory. That's what I want to talk about. 35 billion more than last year, and 10 times more compared to 2020. In 5 years, this industry has scaled 10 times. Let that soak in. 10 times. We have seen 10 times growth in committed capital. Which other clean energy technology can say that? It's extremely reminiscent of early days in solar and wind. We have a trajectory. The question is now, what do we do next? But I will get to it in just a moment. The second number I would like to leave with is 500. We now have 500 projects around the world that have reached final investment decision, are in construction, or in operation. And the picture of hydrogen is changing. You remember how we always filled our PowerPoints with ugly stock pictures of hydrogen molecules? That's over. These projects are real. They are happening. And Jorgo is showing you some of those examples. We included 12 key case studies in our Global Hydrogen Compass to show you that it's really people in hard hats, steel in the ground, right? The industry is building. Now, I do need to take a moment to acknowledge that not everything is rosy. We open the news. What do we see in the news? Projects delayed, cancelled. But when you see those headlines, please remember that there are 500 good stories to tell, and that there are 110 billion flowing into the industry. That's real projects, real money. So your point, Jorgo, on that realism, the fact that both can be true at the same time. Some things are working extremely well, and some things need additional effort. We know that very clear. This is neither hype nor doom and gloom. This is an industry in the process of building up. Now, I do want to acknowledge one more thing, and that is, Jorgo, to your point on what's happening around the world. These numbers feel vastly different depending on where in the world you may be. Let me start in China. A little tour of the world, if you will. China is dominating the charts right now. China is leading both in terms of total global investment. You see it right here, 33 out of the 110. It's also leading in renewable hydrogen capacity. That is the fact. That is the situation where we are right now. Ranking second, North America. We looped in Canada and the US here together because they're both leaning into their capabilities in low carbon hydrogen. Industry experience, they know how to handle molecules. They've been very, very successful at it. Where is Europe? Where is Europe in all of this? Ranking third. And you don't need me to give you the numbers. You feel it. Huh? You feel it every day in your work. Things have been slow. Things have been difficult, complex, too tight. How do we make it work? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really the parting thought I want to leave you with. It's perhaps one of the greatest paradoxes in the hydrogen world. Because Europe has absolutely everything, every single ingredient that it needs to lead the way. It has the most comprehensive regulatory framework on Earth. It is set to be the #1 demand center globally by 2030. But somehow, all of this is not translating into FIDs. It's not translating into reality. So what I believe needs to happen urgently is to really reset. Europe needs scale. Europe needs speed. And before I hand over back to Jorgo, I will say the numbers are extremely clear. The rest of the world is not waiting. So Europe needs to decide if it wants to lead or follow. Jorgo.
And there's one reason. Thank you. She stays. You stay, yeah?
I want you to be there.
She's not running away. But you mentioned how fast the ramp-up is already in hydrogen, also compared to solar, by the way. Yeah? It's 40 years compared to 5 years, same ramp-up in speed, which is remarkable. That's our problem. It's a new industry. It's an infant phase industry. And EU is putting a regulation which is not helping. It's a fact. And we were very polite. We need to be diplomatic ourselves as well. We were very polite all these years, and we did not highlight it. We need to highlight it now. The price due to regulation of hydrogen produced in Europe is 3 to 5 times higher than in your country, in Oman. And this is not really understandable. Are we going to the Commission to tell them, please change that? Yes. Here you see Dan Jørgensen for the Danish guys in that room, who sent me this letter beginning of September, so a few days ago, and I asked him, can you please be more flexible? And he comes with, yeah, you have to wait until our legal review clause July 28. I don't need to comment. But this is ridiculous, sorry to say. Huh? So this is not okay if you want to push your industry. You have a hydrogen strategy, and then you come up with these kind of things. This is very difficult, and this is why we need to look at the rest of the world.
Absolutely. So here I come again. Things are complex now. It's a difficult time. I think we all have to be really clear that there are a number of competing priorities. You know, we don't live in a black and white world. But if we want that clean, affordable, secure, resilient future, we have to build it. And I know last year you spent quite a bit of time talking about the Draghi report. That was supposed to be the wake-up call for Europe, right? Mario Draghi made it extremely clear. Innovation is Europe's #1 chance. And hydrogen can be that strategic vector for sovereignty, for industrial leadership. Here we are, nearly a year later. Has anything happened? Has that wake-up call really worked? So perhaps we need to push harder. We need to go further. And I'm confident that Europe can provide that leadership if it chooses to do so. Mario Draghi said very clearly, it's not enough to set goals. It's not enough to set goals. That's a starting point. But the real work starts after you've set the goals. You need to follow through. You need to build. And these are things that don't take 6 months, 18 months. They take years, decades, generations, right? It's way bigger than any single one of us in this room. So perhaps I will be the good cop for a little moment, Jorgo, if you allow me. And I want to send or share with you a message from the CEOs of the Hydrogen Council, because this is not about finger pointing and bashing one or the other. It's really about the public-private collaboration. It's about us coming together to build something that really creates the future we want to see. And the industry is still in. We asked the CEOs of the Hydrogen Council. We interviewed, surveyed some 70 top global leaders from the Hydrogen Council. And this is what they told us. I have to say we were frankly surprised. We were surprised how very committed, focused, confident those CEOs appeared. If you look at the numbers, 7 out of 10 report not decrease in investment appetite, stability or increase. Why is that? Because out of that mess of the pipeline, CEOs see a healthier, more focused, more resilient industry emerge. And those who know what it takes to build large-scale projects see the contours of that investment really shaping up. 83%, 8 out of 10 CEOs expect the growth to continue. So there's a level of confidence. Now, I will tell you what every single one CEO told us at the end of the interview, that none of this is a given, that none of this is a guarantee. And if we truly want to see the trajectory continue, we have to act like it. We have to act like it with a sense of urgency. And frankly, this is what I see when I visit our members on site. I talk to the manufacturing teams. I talk to the engineering teams, right? I see the plans, and I always come back with 2 emotions. One is we're so proud. We're so incredibly proud to be building this future, not just for us, but for our children, for our communities. But we're anxious. We're anxious because we don't know how quickly that future will come. And we have all teed up investments. We have plans in operation. We have things ready to go, and we need to harness that investment now. That means we need to move now. We really need to build, and there's no time to waste. Jorgo.
That's exactly what Mario Draghi said. He was here 10 days ago in Brussels. Mrs. von der Leyen had asked him to come up with an assessment of how can we make Europe competitive. And he said, Mrs. von der Leyen, you did only implement 11% of what I told you. Delay is decline. And this is something we can really stop because things have changed. We may like it, we may not like it. They have changed. And Europe geopolitically is squeezed in a situation that is quite new. That's why we concentrate on lead markets. We want to not convince, to discuss with the European Commission that in certain areas you need to have a set of rules that are for a certain time different, more flexible. You need to change procurement rules. Why are all the wind parks built with public money not obliged to take clean steel, green steel, but the cheapest steel? Same applies for the field of refining, where we also will now start lead markets, biggest hydrogen market in Europe, by the way, and also in the field of fertilizers. The Indian tender delivers feedstock for clean fertilizers. If we cut the Russian gas, we should also avoid then to have Russian fertilizers coming our way. We could do it with Indian ammonia, green ammonia. Ladies and gentlemen, also mobility is an issue. And there we try to do something new after some while. We build up together the global hydromobility lines. I think the colors of that... We're matching very well, so it's very good.
I think we're not doing bad. I think Ivana would approve too of our color choices this morning. But on a serious note, I think that is really the bridge from that urgent call to action to actually taking the action, right? To really being there, skin in the game, and really pushing, showing that kind of leadership. The Hydrogen Council was founded with a very simple mission, and that was to bring together some of the top global leaders, CEOs, chairmen, members of the board, who have that skin in the game, but also the power to take decisions. And that convening power, that ability to bring together CEOs is still one of our greatest assets. And I would argue that it's more needed than ever. So we're very proud to have, with the help of Hydrogen Europe and obviously the many members involved, we have brought together this coalition, Global Hydrogen Mobility Alliance. It's a very powerful group that now unites some, I think 4 dozen CEOs across the entire value chain. Many of them and many of the companies here in the room, Air Liquide, Bosch, BMW, Daimler Truck, Hyundai, Toyota, many others. You see the full value chain. And the alliance is really laser focused on market activation. No talk, just walk, market activation. So I would argue that in a record short amount of time, they managed to align not only on what they need from policymakers, but also what they will do themselves as businesses. And I think that's really key. We need to take the action ourselves. Huh? If we want to see movement, we have to push ourselves. And GHMA is doing that. You will obviously hear from representatives of GHMA who are better placed to explain what the Alliance is asking for. There's, if I may, a little plaque at 2:15, a special session where you will hear from a number of GHMA experts. But I want to leave you with 2 thoughts, 2 principles that apply to mobility, transport, but also hydrogen scale-up more broadly. The first one is the notion of making stuff, manufacturing. I brought a bipolar plate somewhere. There it is. Let me just grab it for a second, because I really wanted to show it to you. I've had the chance to visit a number of our members. I was with Bosch, Cellcentric, ECPO, and they very generously gave me a bipolar plate. They thought this crazy lady is really excited about bipolar plates. And I'll tell you why. Because that is the future. European engineers are very good at making things. European engineers are extremely good at innovation. And when I visit these plants, I see the spark in their eye. They want to turn that legacy. They want to turn the skills and know-how into that future. So making stuff. Let's make sure we can keep on making stuff here in Europe. And the second one, and take it from the Czech, if you wish, is the notion of sovereignty, of freedom, of independence. And I don't want to get too big picture here, but having options is a good thing. Having options, having flexibility is a good thing. In transport, we've never relied on a single solution. We've always had a portfolio of propulsion systems, of fuels. Please make that continue, because optionality and flexibility is a good thing, is the baseline for our resilience, is a baseline for our sovereignty.
Absolutely, and this year we don't have an exhibition, but there's one big item that we exhibit. You see it outside. It's Daimler Truck. It's this vehicle that has done the world record run, 1,040 kilometers in a row with one basically fueling. Wow. Battery trucks cannot do it. We don't ask them to do it. We need redundant systems. We need more than one technology, as you say, and the reason is very simple. So they showed us what they do. Okay, the guy on the right-hand side has a difficult haircut, but the rest is clear. We are warned. It's not something we shouldn't know. Now, why are we in a difficult situation? I mean, this happened in Scotland some weeks ago, and the message was clear. $750 billion energy imports from US deal. So you get less tariffs, a deal. This is a catastrophe, ladies and gentlemen. 750 billion watt. LNG may be, and mostly. LNG has a worse, from US, has a worse footprint than coal. What are we telling the rest of the world in COP30? Huh? The leaders in climate. We are telling them that we are buying LNG. And by the way, due to our regulation, delegated acts, we cannot clean this up. We cannot do it via CCS. We cannot do it via pyrolysis. It's not possible because the delegated say, Norwegian gas you can do, methane footprint good, here bad. So what are we? In what kind of situation are we? And why did we get into this situation? We could get out of this by the things we just mentioned if we are wise. At the moment, and I didn't want to be the bad cop here, but we have an issue. Commission tries not to look at this. Although this is a European product, it's world leading, and they say, no, 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 we go for battery. Do we have batteries in Europe? No. Look at how many plants, European plants of batteries there are. And we are strong also in producing SAF and eSAF, sustainable air fuels. That's, by the way, coming now. We have the regulation for that. This is good. There are a lot of projects going into that direction. There are a lot of new foundations and companies that go into that direction. And I had the honor and the pleasure to be a week ago in Frankfurt Hoekstra to visit one of these plants, Fischer-Tropsch, and it's a member of ours, Ineratec. It's a quite small company, but we had in our hands what everybody's talking about. I have e-diesel, and here Laurent, who is our eSAF guy, who has built up over nearly a decade now the Sky Power Alliance. Look at this. He was so happy to hold this finally in his hands. It exists. It is there. This is something that makes us more resilient, more independent. But we need Oman, we need India, we need feedstock in order to produce all this, and I'm sure Europeans will be good buyers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our vulnerability. We have 50 refining systems, refineries in Europe, 50. If you want to attack us, you attack there. And you see the drones that at the moment are checking, especially the north of Europe, they are flying over these systems. We could become more resilient by importing feedstock, by being more diverse, by producing the feedstock ourselves, and have a widespread production of these eSAF. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last years, 4 years, we had many commissioners here. We had, of course, the president of the European Commission, who still is the president, the executive vice president. He was very, very decisive to bring hydrogen up, to make it very well known. Also, Maroš Šefčovič was executive vice president. And Wopke Hoekstra, he did start the hydrogen bank here at this conference. He would be our next speaker. He needs to be in Copenhagen. He needs to be at the summit, and that was on short notice. We will listen to him right now. He will give us his message, but it's of utmost importance that all of you use your contacts, your links that you have to policymakers in your constituencies, in your countries, in order to make us understand. We need to have a simplification of rules, at least for some years, and at least to reward the early adopters. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to both of us. We try to be good cop, bad cop. Don't know.
It's both. It's all right. As long as we keep building.
That's it. And it only works together. We only can build this on a global scale. Let's now listen to Wopke Hoekstra, the Commissioner for Climate and Industrial Resilience, by the way, here in Europe. And after that, we will welcome the Minister. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, great to address you all at this year's European Hydrogen Week. Thank you very much for organizing this great event, and I'm truly sorry I couldn't be there in person. As European Commissioner for Climate, Net Zero and Clean Growth, I would like to share a few thoughts with all of you. First, we all agree that hydrogen is an important piece of the puzzle as we move towards a cleaner future. It truly is a versatile energy carrier that can transform sectors from transport to heavy industry. And there is perhaps a perception that the hype around hydrogen has lessened compared to a few years ago. But here's the thing. There's less of a hype about climate change too. But it doesn't make it any less important or urgent. The world has changed, priorities have changed, but climate action is and will continue to be a top priority. And therefore hydrogen will continue to play a critical role in helping us achieve our goals. Second, Europe is creating the most comprehensive framework for a hydrogen economy anywhere in the world. But I know you do need more. We're also working hard to cut financial risk and speed up projects. We have the European Hydrogen Bank. Later this year, we'll launch a third auction round with over 1 billion euros in funding, now open to electrolytic low-carbon hydrogen and requiring stronger project readiness. And thanks to our Innovation Fund, we're also backing over 40 hydrogen projects with over 3.1 billion euros in grants. And we have our 4 important projects of common European interest, supporting hydrogen value chain and hydrogen infrastructure. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to my third and final point. We're truly all in this together. We all have our part to play. The Commission is doing its part. Member states need to expand funding and speed up permitting for pipelines and infrastructure. In the private sector, developers, consumers and investors must seize the opportunities and bring forward projects and basically stimulate market demand. Ladies and gentlemen, hydrogen is so much more than just a technology. It is, in my view, a new industry. It means new jobs and a stronger, more competitive and more resilient Europe. And with all that said, I wish you an excellent conference. Thank you very much.